now Gagan Mohindra, and then James Wilde needs to be on standby. Gagan Mohindra.
Thank you, Chairman. Just following on from the comments made by Sir Bob, my question is to do with a different part of the justice system, which is the transformation rehabilitation programme, and how are we ensuring that those individuals that do enter prison don't come back in weeks, months, years ahead. You'll be aware that there was a report by the Ministry of Justice last year called the Economic and Social Costs of Reoffending, which referenced a figure of £18.1 billion as a monetary figure for the cost of reoffending. That does not include, obviously, the emotional well-being side of victims of crime and the wider society. Dr. Joe, do you mind just clarifying, or can you give us an update on the Transforming Rehabilitation Programme and what you have done since May of last year?
Yes, thank you for that question. We're really very keen to help people to address their offending behaviour. We have a number of programmes in prisons which are specified around the needs of the individual. That is one of the reasons for creating reconfiguration and training prisons, so that people can go in and have help with their offending behaviour. More recently, we have introduced a new director for reducing reoffending, specifically to help us to look more widely at how we reduce reoffending. This is not just an HMPPS issue, it's not just a Ministry of Justice issue, it is actually a whole government issue. So there are things now in place, such as a prison leavers project, where we're working very closely with DWP and our colleagues in MHCLG to look at how can we provide the proper support for people leaving prison. That's aligned with our new Through the Gate programme, which looks at the needs of people leaving prison and starts working with them a few weeks before they leave prison to start addressing their needs. We also have a new programme of offender management, where we work closely throughout the sentence with the prisoner, and the probation are involved in looking at their needs. So we're working really hard to make sure that when people leave prison, they have the right support in place so that they can continue to lead purposeful lives and not to reoffend, because we do recognise the cost on society.
Gagan Mohindra.
And so, Richard, could I get your views on that? Because Dr. Joe referred to a cross-government approach, and I agree it does need to be cross-government, but in terms of the relevant accountable officer, would that be yourself? And do you think you now have bits in place to make sure that we break the cycle of incarceration?
Well, I hope so, and I think we're in a better position than we have been before. I think, as Dr. Farrar said, across government, it's realised that if you want to tackle crime, the best way to do it is to tackle reoffending, because that's most crime is reoffending. So there's a strong Prime Ministerial lead on this. The Prison Leavers Project is cross-departmental, and you mentioned transforming rehabilitation. Another part of this is delivering a probation service that's absolutely world-class and up to the mark. And we need to escape from the troubles that the Transforming Rehabilitation Programme left the probation service in, and that's why, as Dr. Farrar explained at the top of the meeting, that's why we're working so hard to ensure this latest transition is smoothly delivered, because a decent probation service is undoubtedly part of the task of tackling reoffending. So yes, I think we have got good mechanisms across government. There's good realisation. There's increasingly cross-cutting spending initiatives on this. We're working well with the Home Office, working well with the Housing Department, and DWP in particular. So it's a good cross-government effort, certainly better than it has been in recent years.
So, Richard, you'll be aware that our committee has asked for that cross-government strategy to be published. Is that likely to be forthcoming?
I'm not sure if there's an imminent publication, so I don't want to promise something that may or may not appear. So can I just take advice on that and get back to you?
Could you please? Because we have asked for it before, so it shouldn't be a surprise that we're keen to see it. So, and it was a while ago, I think, that we did that before a recent general election, indeed. Mr. Mohindra, back to you.
Thank you, Chair. Now, part of the initial strategy was a reduction of the prison estate, to use some of that to firstly reduce the cost of running the prison service, but also allow investment into new build or improvements. To date, we've only had one prison closure. I think there is a perception that over the last 4 years the system has not worked, and colleagues have already referred to the lack of capacity in the system. We know there's a bottleneck of criminal cases in the justice system in terms of the court system. What's to stop the whole system falling over in the weeks and months ahead? Can I direct the question to Sir Richard?
Yes,
Sir Richard Heaton.
Thank you. So there are a few strands there. You're right that back in 2015-16, when the government said, right, we're going to build new prisons and close down old ones, and that was a fantastic idea. That never really happened for a number of reasons. Firstly, the prison population started to go up rather than being flat, so that helped to defeat expectations. Secondly, our maintenance backlog caught up with us, as we described. Places fell out of use for that reason. Thirdly, the Treasury, I'm not blaming the Treasury became a bit suspicious of the programme because we had a spending settlement that fundamentally didn't work, and they thought, well, these guys need the capital to fill their resource spending, as I've explained. So for all those reasons, the programme slowed right down. It no longer became a new for old. It became having to beg for money from the Treasury 2 or 3 times a year to do prison by prison, as opposed to a 6-prison project. The reason we feel more confident this time round on prison building is, as I explained earlier, we're not pretending that this is going to be a new for old programme. We're not promising to close lots of prisons. We're promising to build some really good quality new prisons because we need the new prisons. If at any time in the future the population falls, then we'd be delighted to close some of our bad prisons, but that's not part of the sort of spending deal at the moment. So that's fundamentally why we're in a more optimistic position now than I think we would have been in 2016. I think that helps answer part of your question. You also mentioned the head of work in the Crown Court. You're absolutely right. We are determined to get the Ministry of Justice, the justice system, including the judiciary, absolutely determined to get the Crown Courts back running to a proper capacity. And this part of the system needs to respond to that. One part doesn't drive the other. We need courts to start trying people, otherwise the justice system doesn't work. So we're keen for that to get up and running, and it means we need to respond to it by providing the places that the courts will undoubtedly need when they start sending people to prison again. So you're right, the two things are connected, but all arrows point towards the imperative to get these prison builds happening to schedule, and to date these ones will be to schedule.